The world unfolds differently for each of us. Why? Where do the rules come from? Within each of us, there is a unique philosophy shaping our thoughts, beliefs, feelings, worldviews, and actions. This is Inner Dialogues with Ecem, an introspective space for curious souls and minds. This is where you get to understand your individual philosophy that writes the script of your life. This is where we unveil the inner wisdom that guides you. Yep, that was your inner sage knocking the door. Let's go and chat with him. Hi, it's Ecem. Welcome back to Inner Dialogues with me. Let me take you on a journey within my mind. As I was ironing the other day, I turned around and saw my old GoPro case in the corner of the room, which took me to the moment of dropping it by accident into the depths of the sea last week. That memory made me think the photos I've taken with it one more time. Oh, speaking of photos, I remember the last footage I uploaded from it to my computer 2 weeks ago. I didn't know it was the last time I connected it to my computer. Oh, my computer. How long it took me to transfer my photos from my phone to the computer the week before that. Oh my God, all the memories throughout the years. I missed my apartment back in Copenhagen. I missed living abroad. Will I be able to go to Vienna to visit my friend? Oh, speaking of friends, I have an upcoming wedding of a friend. I should book a hair appointment. Let me call them right now. Ooh. Within 5 seconds, I traveled back in time to the trip I took to the Aegean Sea last week, then on to the years I spent in Copenhagen, then right now to book an appointment. Have you ever had one of these moments? Or maybe better to ask, have you ever counted how many times in a day you move across time and space within your mind? It all starts with a cue, a memory, a smell, feeling visiting you, a thing you see on social media or in the street, a sound you hear, and it takes you to completely a different place. Snowballing of thoughts one after another. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger as we trace it, as we interpret it, intellectualize it. We are being dragged by our thoughts from the present moment either to past or future. As I have mentioned in the last episode, I'm currently reading, or maybe better to say experiencing, Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act. There I came across a term, a Pali word, a Buddhist concept, Papañca. He described as preponderance of thought, the mind's tendency to respond to our experiences with an avalanche of mental chatter. Ooh. The mind's tendency to respond to our experiences with an avalanche of mental chatter. In that moment when I read that part in the book, I was like, it has a name then. This is what I experience. This is what we experience as humans, especially people who loves intellectualizing, contemplating, thinking further. I wonder who they are. No kidding. That's me. But for a while, I started to realize all this thinking, contemplating is taking something from me. I've always loved thinking further about life, but recently there's something that feels a bit draining. I'm feeling a bit even guilty. I returned back to my journaling recently. I wrote about what I'm feeling lately. I poured my mind and heart into the pages. I tried to scratch the surface of that guilt. After a very inspirational and thought and action-provoking chat I had with a dear friend of mine, I decided to start a newsletter, better to say a journal. What you hear in these episodes are quite personal, and as much as I'm trying to speak as authentic and raw as possible, what you hear is still an end product. What I really love and what I'm really passionate about is behind the scenes. You know, I want to witness how that artist of whom I admire his works, songs, paintings, words, creates all of them. I admire his works, but at the same time, I have an idea of who they are, which is probably way different than who they actually are. If I were to be able to see and witness what is going on inside of their mind and the creation of their creative final product, it would inspire me so much. I'd able to see through their humanity more behind their work of art. So yeah, long story short, I started a newsletter. It is called Philos, a weekly journal from Inner Dialogues with Ecem. If you have been following the Instagram account, Inner Dialogues with Ecem, you've already seen it because I shared it last night, saying that there's something very exciting coming on the way. And this morning I shared the link with you, and a couple of you even signed up for it, which I'm very, very much excited about. You have seen my face on Instagram, how excited I am. But yeah, I dove deeper into the intention and whole story behind the newsletter on the welcoming email. Once you sign up, if you'd like to sign up, if you'd like to join me in this journey, you'll receive two emails. First one will be welcoming letter from my heart to yours, and the second one will be the very, very first Philos. So yeah, once you click and sign up, I'll visit your inbox every week. You can find the link in the description, as always. I'm just too excited. I'm just too excited for this. But anyway, let's go back to where we left off. As I was saying, for a while, I believe since I quit my previous job and started full on with my own business, my mind is in a constant pull. It's in Papañca most of the time. At the same time, there's this grounded peace I'm feeling about who I am. Yes, there's this constant pull with various thoughts, but at the same time, there's this grounded feeling. I mentioned on episode 22 about the transition period that I am in for a while, where I feel like I'm parting my ways with most of my friends. What I didn't touch upon there was this grounded feeling that I was experiencing. After I went out with one of my friends, just before creating that episode, I shared my feelings and reflections with my parents about the role I've been finding myself in the situations and relationships I experience. I said to them, I feel like a witness to things going on around me. I feel like I'm watching a movie scene. Situations create feelings and emotions within me, but they don't drag me away for some reason. I feel like an observer to life. When I said those words out loud to them, I realized this state of being a witness has been going on for a while, especially when I do something out of my routine and habits. When I used to go out of my routine and do something different, as simple as seeing a friend or going out, it used to create a feeling of dis-ease, being shaken up, being dragged by further thoughts. Versus now, I feel like I'm watching as I live in the moment. You may ask, where does Papañca comes into play then? That's the interesting part, because that witness state comes to me when I listen to people in a conversation, when I go out, when I do something different physically and mentally. But when I'm in my normal routines, and especially alone, I get almost lost in Papañca, within my thoughts and the reality they create for me. So when I learned the word Papañca, I reflected on it, I journaled about it, which turned into a whole newsletter idea, a concrete example of Papañca. That made me realize the other side of the Papañca. The other side of the coin may be the witness state. This is what I want to explore today, Papañca versus the witness state. Somehow I connected this opposition with three more dynamics or concepts, we can call them, thinking concepts, which I wanted to talk about and create with them for a while right now. Let's start, shall we? let's first get a bit more clear on Papañca. Steven Schwartzberg, a meditator, clinical psychologist, and intentional nomad since 2003, describes the messiness of everyday thinking as, quote, worrying about the future, rehashing the past, reliving conversations, rewriting events, scripting imagined outcomes, savoring this, plotting that, wanting things to be different than they are or were. Our basic mental activity can lead over and over into self-inflicted unnecessary torment. End quote. Very accurate, right? You experienced it yourself many times. Our minds automatically asks, another concrete example of Papañca, what is the way out of here? What is the opposite of Papañca then? Is it not thinking? Of course it is not thinking. We talked about a concept called monkey mind in episode 10, where we discussed about hustle culture. Our untrained minds have the tendency of functioning as a monkey, jumping from one branch to another, one shiny object to another shinier one. Now, I learned that monkey has a name. It's called Papañca. That monkey of ours is basically the Papañca state. Our minds are thinking machines, right? They run the show on their own stage by tossing our thoughts to one another. I was reading and listening more about the concept of Papañca, and I came across a meditation teacher and Zen writer on YouTube called Ed Conley. In his What is Papañca video, he said some very wise and philosophical things about our tendency to think. Quote, our culture is a thinking virus. We think we can think our way of anything. We try to get rid of thinking by thinking. Thinking is our first responder. When we are thinking, we are doing life. What thinking is trying to do is to end the suffering of its own thinking and just to be present and be in unity with seeing and being. End quote. There's a lot to unpack there. Let me share my take on it. When we come across a struggle in our lives, our first way of responding is to think about it. Think about possible solutions, worst case scenarios, or what would happen if I were to do that or this. We try to think our way through that situation, right? One thinking leads to another, just for the sake of solving the life, pre-planning the action, pre-deciding on being the life, which puts us in the position of doing the life through thinking. What he said in his video about doing life and thinking was quite interesting. When we are thinking, we are doing life, he said. Rather, seeing is being, knowing is being. And he gave the following example. Quote, if your hands are on a hot plate, you see it and take your hand off. There is nobody there saying, take your hand off the plate. You and taking your hand off the plate are one. End quote. You know that your hand is burning, so you immediately act and take your hand off. That is being. We are human beings, not human doings. In this wonderful book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, he explains two types of habits, outcome-based and identity-based. He says, quote, outcomes are about what you get. Identity is about what you believe, end quote. Think of two people who are trying to quit smoking. Both of them are offered cigarettes. One says, no, thanks, but I'm trying to quit smoking. The other one says, no, thanks, I'm not a smoker. How James Clear explains this is that the first person, quote, still believes that they are a smoker who's trying to be something else. They're hoping their behavior will change while carrying out the same beliefs. The second person declines by saying, no thanks, I'm not a smoker. This statement signals a shift in identity. Smoking was part of their former life, not their current one. They no longer identify as someone who smokes. End quote. The second person is in the being life state instead of doing part. He became one with his belief. He is in unity with his knowing, therefore he is in the being the life state. The first person is doing the life. They're still fighting with their own demons, with their own conflict of thoughts, which makes them stay in the doing phase. In my coaching sessions, once the client is clear what to do after the session about their goal, I ask them who you should be in order to do these things you said. And every time they stop for a second. Why? Because we are constantly looking out, planning, and even regretting about doing. We are constantly thinking our way through of anything, and we miss the most crucial part, which is being. I'm not going to smoke for the rest of the week or month. Worse is, I'm not a smoker for the rest of the month. I'm going to encourage a supportive working environment in my job. Okay, great. Who are you? Who are you going to be to do that? I'm going to be a leader. Once you are, doing part comes naturally. How we start in general is the reverse though. We first intellectualize, think our way through, and then act. We try to function from outside to inside, not from inside to outside, which I think is one of the main reasons of our dis-ease in life, in our being. The dis-ease I've been feeling lately is caused by my effort in doing life, intellectualizing, thinking further and further, come up with plans. Trying to do life instead of be life, trying to intellectualize, think our way through instead of witness internal and external situations is what puts us in dis-ease. There is this constant thinking and effort in it. There is this constant feeling of being dragged by thinking, further ideas, planning, strategizing, intellectualizing. Papañca, basically. This is looking and living from outside to inside. What does looking from inside to outside mean then? For me, it means witnessing. It is moving from the Papañca state to the witness state. When I'm the witness, my mind stops chattering. It stops with judgments, possible future scenarios, doubts, script writing. All of the chatter of my mind starts to sound like a fly buzzing. The following lines were written on Quora about this very subject. Quote, "Only when there is movement of thought, conflict arises. Only when conflict arises, we have an opportunity to observe the conflict. The act of observation of this conflict with equanimity causes radical transformation. Thought has not been eliminated, but its movement stops." End quote. Once we become the observer of the conflict, we stop being the subject of it. We don't engage in the conflict of thoughts. We don't engage in Papañca anymore. Rather, we become the witness of it. As human beings, we can experience life in various depths. There are thoughts, but there's also conflict of them. There's the constant conflict of them, but there's also being the witness of the conflict. We get deeper and deeper as we scratch the layers of our consciousness, of our awareness. There is this misconception about meditation, which is that during meditation we try to stop thinking. There is no such thing. It is not possible to stop thinking, and neither it is desirable to stop it. What we are aiming in meditation is to stay as a witness of thoughts, letting them come and pass. One of my yoga teachers uses this analogy of watching your mind as if you're watching a television. He says, imagine you're watching the screen of your mind on which your thoughts are coming by and go away. You don't hold on to any images. Instead of, once they come, you look at them, observe them, simply be with them, and once they decide to go, you watch them go. You don't create narratives on it. You don't intellectualize, you purely witness them as if you're watching a television. This is what meditation is about. It is about sitting with your mind while not letting yourself to be moved and dragged by your mind. This is about being life, not doing life. It's incredible when we don't intellectualize and create further stories and attachments with thoughts coming by, experiences that are happening. They simply go away after they fulfill their purpose. Witnessing is not about thinking about thinking. It is simply being and sitting with thinking without further intellectualizing. And funny enough, the witness self is always there. It is always there in the back of our minds, our beings. It's like the sound of an acoustic guitar, or like finger snapping, or the tempo of the drum that we don't always hear in a song, although it is there in the background with all other sounds and instruments. Once we hear the drum, once we pay attention to that instrument, the lyrics or other louder instruments sounds less loud. Consciously choosing to stay with the witness mindset, the witness self, is like playing with an audio mixer board. There are several control buttons on it which can represent all the stimuli we have around us, external and internal. Our feelings, bodily reactions, doubts, urges, passions, the constant internal chatter we have, but also the sounds of the world around us. Someone sipping their coffee, typing on a keyboard, speaking, arguing, laughing, cars passing by, and all other things we don't even realize. Think of them as if every one of them has a control button on this audio mixer board in front of you. Once you raise the voice and presence of the witness self, all other internal and external voices automatically go silent. You can still see their frequencies and vibrances on the spectrogram. Your receptors are still alive and active and receiving stimuli, but it doesn't reach your conscious side just because you chose to stay as a witness to them. This is how I see the pendulum between Papañca and witness self. Witnessing creates a gap in our being between our thoughts and present moment. That gap gives us the opportunity to read between the lines of life. Without that gap, we are in constant Papañca, being dragged by our mind's tendency to interpret our experiences with mental chatter. With that gap, we move to the position of being the creators of our lives. How? I'll introduce you to two dynamics: drama, triangle, and empowerment dynamic. Let's explore them a bit. If you're a visual person like me, imagine a triangle, actually two triangles. If you want, you can draw them right now. We're going to name each corner of the two triangle differently. The first triangle is called drama triangle, and the corners are called persecutor, victim, rescuer. The second triangle is called empowerment dynamic, and the corners are called challenger, creator, coach. Don't worry, I'm going to repeat them 1,000 more times. Feel free to Google drama triangle versus empowerment dynamic, by the way, and have the sketch of it in front of you right now if it helps. What do these roles mean? We have a tendency to put ourselves into the narrative of life is happening to me. This puts us at the mercy of situations, circumstances. Why is it happening to me? Why me? Poor me? All these narratives are sneaky. Victim narrative is sneaky. It makes us feel powerless about our lives and our agency. It makes us wait for something to happen in order to get into action and react. We discussed the difference between reaction and response in previous episodes. Reaction, if you were to think about the construction of the word for a second, it is reaction. Basically means doing action again, performing a previously done action again, repeating what you have done before. Reaction. When we position ourselves as victims, we react to situations instead of responding. We limit ourselves to the repetition of our past experiences instead of living and creating new possibilities in the present. We limit our agency on life. We create this illusion of, I don't have any control of my life or my decisions. I was feeling frustrated and overwhelmed, so I couldn't finish what I have started. Do you know how many times I did this for you? People never understand me. Everything bad always happens to me, or this and that always happens to me. Why is this happening to me? I wish I could be happy, beautiful, prosperous, etc. like you or everyone else. It's not going to work. Why bother? It's all on me. I don't or didn't have a choice. They should know not to bother me while I'm working. They should know not to do this or that. And many, many more sentences that we used at some point in our lives. They're coming from the narrative of life is happening to me, the victim role in the drama triangle. If there is a victim, then there is a persecutor of that act, the one who oppresses and blames the victim, or the one who's blamed by the victim. Think of someone who criticized you harshly. The person who blamed you, not gave you feedback or constructive critique. Those people tend to lecture, preach, and criticize without giving any guidance or offering any solution. The tricky part of the drama triangle is the fluidity between the roles. We can easily change roles from being a persecutor to a victim, or a victim to a persecutor, or persecutor to a rescuer. The rescuer is like the prince on the white horse, which I hate, whom the main girl of the tale waits for. In this case, the girl is a victim. She thinks she needs someone else, an external force, to create a change in her life. There is no agency, there is no responsibility taken for her own life. But she also thinks that she is in need of to be saved. And who's going to save her? The prince with the white horse, the rescuer. Now, the fairy tales don't tell us what happens after that happy, quote unquote, happy ending. But I think we can make up our own minds. When we try to save someone, when we try to be a savior, we aim to relieve their pain. We start the whole process by feeling, poor you. And with that narrative, we think they're in need of saving. We offer them short-term relief, little pleasures, temporary band-aids, and we want to do things for them. Let me save you. This is the whole message. What we don't realize is that this fosters dependency. I was a rescuer in my previous relationship. I wanted to save him from his family's blaming, oppression, and all other things I saw in his family as wrong, and saw him as in need of saving. I was a nerd. I've always loved studying. He didn't. He was feeling guilty about it. I tried to do things for him, bought him books, pencils, signed him to courses, and eventually I was successful. He became one of the students that the teachers really liked. What I didn't really realize is that the love we have was turning into a form of dependency, a habit. It's like smoking. I heard that people who have been smoking for years are accustomed to the feeling of the cigarette touching their lips, instead of the action of smoking and filling your lungs with it. It is the habit of feeling it between your lips. You don't crave the action phase when you're a victim, but you are craving to be saved from your situation. And your savior is the rescuer whom eased your pain with short-term relief. Then what is the main difference between the victim in this drama triangle and the creator in the empowerment dynamic? Let's recap. Drama triangle has the roles of persecutor, victim, rescuer. And the empowerment dynamic has challenger, creator, coach. I think what makes us move from the victim role to the creator is realizing that you are in a position to decide what happens in life, not to you, but as you. Whether you believe in a higher power or not, it doesn't matter. You are the creator of your actions. How? That's the main question, right? In a workshop run by Joa, you may know him as the Artidote on Instagram, he introduced us to what he calls 4 stages of consciousness, which are to me, through me, by me, as me. It all starts with realizing how we position ourselves as victim in our own lives, which creates further suffering and drama dynamics. After realizing that narrative of life is happening to me, it is when we'll be able to step back from our victimhood and start to understand ourselves as channels through which life flows. The way I see the world, the way I behave creates the shape of the channel, and life goes through that channel. Life goes through me. It is the realization of the filter through which we see the world. That is the through me stage of our consciousness. Understanding each one of us is a channel moves us to a deeper conscious state, which is the by me state. It is where we take the responsibility of our lives. It is where we say life is happening by me, not for me or to me, but by me. At this point, we are one step closer to the creator role in the empowerment dynamic. And the last consciousness state, Joa says, is the as me, I am state. He said in that workshop that the 2 most powerful words in English is I am. Yes, it is about being instead of doing the life. How we fill out the rest of the I am is what defines our reality. What is your I am? This is the creator role. Being the creator of your life means that this is the outcome I want to have, this is how I want to feel, and therefore I am this. It is choosing your response to the situation. Have you realized the shift? Victim to creator, reaction to response, being dragged by feelings and situations to being an observer, a witness. Papañca to witnessing. What happens when you decide to be the creator of your life? What happens when we experience this shift? You start to see the whole dynamics in your life shifting. Now there is no rescuer, there is no one pities you because you're no longer positioning yourself as a victim. There is no persecutor anymore because there is no one to blame. No victim, no persecutor, no rescuer. Instead, you are a creator now which surrounded you with challengers and coaches. Who's a challenger? Challenger is the one who asks you the question of what can you learn from this situation? It is the one who encourages you to take intentional actions based on your realizations, aspirations, and creativity. It is the one who challenges your assumptions and holds you accountable for your actions and commitments. Alongside with challengers, you start to attract people who sees you as creators, who sees you as resourceful, who sees you as responsible individuals. This is the definition of coach. Coach is someone who remembers what you said, what your heartfelt passions and dreams are, and who holds you accountable for your actions and dreams. A coach is someone full of childlike curiosity who wonderfully uses the art of inquiry, the art of stirring the water of others by deeply and fully listening to them and being present with them with full acceptance. Coach is not someone who tries to save you from where you are or solve problems for you. Coach is not someone who makes you feel guilty for not achieving what you said. A coach is someone who's flexible enough in their attachment to the creator's goal. A coach knows that as the creator changes and evolves, their goal is going to change. Sometimes completely, sometimes with minor details. A coach can be someone professional, or it can be your friend, partner, neighbor, whoever. It just has to be someone with an objective, fully accepting and listening, reflective mindset who is qualified in the art of inquiry. Just like the roles in the drama triangle, the roles here in the empowerment dynamic is also fluid. As long as you stay as a creator of your own life, you'll swap the roles of challenger and coach in different relationships you have with different people. The main difference with the drama triangle is not feeling drained or trapped in the empowerment dynamic. Persecutor, victim, rescuer dynamic is draining. There's no empowerment and responsibility taken there. Challenger, creator, coach dynamic is empowering, freeing, and full of further creation. The bullshit fairy tales we have all listened, in which the girl is waiting in a castle to be saved, while being mentally tortured by her stepmother or some kind of a villain, they are a typical example of drama triangle. The girl is the victim, the prince is the rescuer, the villain, whether it's the stepmother, mother, stepsisters, or witch, you name it, is the persecutor. Moving from drama triangle to the empowerment dynamic is about agency of one's life. It's about taking responsibility of our lives. It's about stop being the victim of our reality situations, but most importantly, victim of our thoughts. Life is happening as me. What I think is what I live in. If we think life is happening to us, life will drag us away. Our thoughts will pull us away into the mental clutter and chatter. If we let ourselves get caught into Papañca, we would position ourselves as victims. As the victim role, the Papañca state is sneaky because most of the time we don't see thinking and intellectualizing as the villain in this whole story, but I argue it is. Because it happens without our awareness on it, without our witnesshood on it, which causes us to end up with a mental loudness. How can we move from being a victim to our thoughts to a witness of them, which will position us as the creator of our lives, of our reality? I'll leave you with the words of Ram Dass on witnessing. He says, quote, "Witnessing yourself is like directing the beam of a flashlight back at itself. In any experience, sensory, emotional, or conceptual, there is the experience, the sensory or emotional or thought data, and there is your awareness of it. That's the witness, the awareness, and you can cultivate that awareness in the garden of your being." End quote. The garden of being. He describes witnessing as waking up in the morning and then looking in the mirror and noticing yourself, not judging or criticizing, just neutrally observing the quality of being awake. Witnessing is stepping back from the experiences, feelings, and thoughts and tap into the real essence of human being instead of human doing. How does your drama triangle look like? Whom does it involve? Whom and what kind of situations and dynamics feed the drama? In which situations you position yourself as the victim? Where do you think life is happening to you? Who's the damsel in distress in your story? Or when do you be the damsel? Who's your prince or princess with the white horse? Who's the villain of your story? How can you shift this drama narrative to the empowerment narrative? What do you create in your life? What is your I am? Is life happening through you, by you, or as you? In which areas of your life you see a difference? Worth to think about, worth to be about, worth to embody. As our conversation for today fades away, may you find your echoes of it that resonate within you. Thanks for listening today. This is Inner Dialogues with Ecem, a place where you discover your inner you, a place where you belong. Take care. Stay witness and purely be.